Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to Naylo's Thrift Talk. I'm Lola.
And I'm Nay, and I was about to say, I probably would have said happy Friday.
I thought of it before I walked in my office. It's like, oh my God, it's Thursday. I can't say the wrong day. This is an unusual time, so anyone who's live, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're watching later, thank you for watching also. We thought this week we would do a great show for old thrifters, new thrifters alike. Nay, do you want to talk a little more about our topic this week?
Yeah, so we've come up, Lola and I each came up with 5 tips. I do have to say Lola's tips are much more creative than mine. Mine are kind of more standard and maybe a little more predictable, but I think it's good that we have a mix of both.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because some of the newer, less seasoned thrifters might not have thought of some of the more maybe predictable ones. Plus, those tips also will have some parts that might be beneficial for all of you. And then Lola's creative tips are going to be great for everyone, including those who are seasoned thrifters. So
I hope so. But before we dive in, we have our usual segments as always.
Yes.
So, Nay, what are you wearing this week that's thrifted?
Okay. So I figured since it is still Pride Month, although again, and I've said this to those of you who've watched other shows, I say, just like with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, people have breast cancer all year. Just like with Pride Month, people are gay all year, not just in June. So
we do like to celebrate. It's always fun to celebrate.
It's great to celebrate though. And I figured since it's still Pride Month, I would wear this Pride item that it's not thrifted, but I did get it at eBay Open a few years back. Griff, who's an eBay employee, he's a great employee, great person.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gave one to me. So I got it for free from eBay Open. Cool. And it is the eBay Pride shirt that says Weebay. And I also am wearing, I was going to wear these on the Pride show and I couldn't find the other earring. Could only find one.
Oh, those were the ones you were telling me about.
Yes, I did locate the other earring and they're just plastic. I got them I remember I thrifted them for $1 at a local thrift store. They're cute rainbow earrings. And then my headband, of course, was also thrifted, I think in like one of those wall baggies. And then last but not least, this ring is something that has come back in style. These are actually, I think they're reproduced, but they're sought after when they're vintage. They're just like hard plastic, but this is my original ring from the 90s.
Very cool.
So yeah. So I have one in green too. So look out for those.
Good tip. I have not seen a lot of those rings before, so now I'm sure once I look for them, I'll find them everywhere. I am wearing a dress that is one of my favorite vintage dresses. I did pay up for this at a vintage store because it was just so pretty.
It's adorable, yeah.
And it's sort of full length and it goes down. It's pleated all the way down and has a little bit of a border design at the hem. And I bought this dress for my birthday several years ago. And I think it should go a little bit off the shoulder. So one thing that I did when I bought this was I noticed the elastic was really worn and it was super easy to just replace it with fresh elastic. But I think probably misjudged how tight to make the elastic. So I think I might go back and fix it at some point and wear it more off the shoulder. But
it looks cute like it is though. But
yeah, that's what I thought. So
really pretty dress. Does it have a tag in it by any chance?
It has no tags. It's definitely not handmade. It does look like it was mass produced, but it looks like maybe the tag was removed at one point. There's really no markings on it whatsoever. So I don't know who it was from, where it was sold, but definitely very 70s. So,
yeah, very cool. So we have a lot of our regulars in the chat and hello to everyone. I see my friend Julie's in the chat today. So good morning or afternoon on the West Coast. So good morning to Julie.
Oh, thanks for tuning in earlier in the day.
And our home decor items are our thrifted home decor items of the week. Now I will preface this with I have an annoying one.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
I will go first with my annoyance. So
okay, I'll switch you over.
Yeah, so this guy is actually, I thought because we're coming up with the 4th of July, I would do something kind of patriotic. So I did thrift this guy for a couple dollars. My mom collects patriotic bears. So she's got this one. This is a gun one. This is worth about $25. I looked it up. This one is worth, this is a country Hulks by Russ. This one's only worth like 10 or so. She's not going to sell her collection, but I did thrift this one for her a while ago.
Yeah.
And I looked him up, and he is worth about,
Wait. Let me guess. Is he one of the Ralph Lauren ones?
No, he's not. He's dandy.
Oh, okay.
Here's his butt tag, if I can.
Sort of see. There you go. Okay.
Dandy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the thing that's annoying about him is this, and I might have to walk him in the other room because he plays for a very long time. So he's from 2003. You can see on his paw.
I'm proud to be an American.
Yeah.
At least I know I'm free. And I won't forget.
Did you just do this to torment me?
So that's going to be really annoying. I might have to walk him in the other room so I can, because it's going to go on. He goes on forever. So.
Wow. Okay, that did not go the direction I thought it was going to go in at all.
Yeah, I just threw him out the door because I knew he was going to, but his comms are, he goes on like he seriously plays for like a good full 2 minutes. So his comms, if you, can you bring up that screen?
Yep, I can do that. Just a second.
Yeah. So I did look, there was one sold, but the thing about the one that sold is I think I can get more for him because of the fact that their whole description was been packed away for years, like new, just sat around. And they have one photo and no video. So I think if I put a video, if I was going to sell him, I don't know if I am. I don't know if my mom wants to, if she wants to part with him. But if I were to sell him, I would do more than one picture. And I would definitely have a better description. I'd have measurements and I would have video in my listing. So, and I think I could probably get more like 30 for him if I did that.
Yeah, that's definitely the kind of item where having a video show it's working and also give you an idea of what the sound sounds like. Really smart.
So
I thought that you were going to say that he was worth like $600, but
oh gosh, yeah,
because he was your mom.
Yeah, then I'd be talking to my mom. I think she wouldn't mind parting with
me. Probably would be fine with it. Buy a couple bears with some of the money, save the rest.
Oh yeah, totally. So, but anyway, that's my item. So Lola, what do you have?
Okay, so my item is also something that I'm not planning to sell. And I was on the fence about it for a little while because it's something that I don't currently know how to use, but it is. So I found this bag at my thrift store in Philly, and the home goods bag was not original to the project, but it still has the sticker from the thrift store on it. It was $2.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I saw the yarn, and from a glance, I knew this was probably not going to be like knitting yarn. It looks closer to needlepoint yarn, and so sure enough, here's a project. So it's been started already. I didn't know what it was until I got home and opened it up. And it turns out that it is a punch needle kit for a Oriental rug design.
Oh, nice.
From the 70s. And when I first found this, I had never heard of punch needles before, but they've actually gotten fairly popular. So now there's a ton of tutorials. There's a ton of resources for buying the tools to do it. So I think I could probably figure out how, but this is the original.
Oh, you can definitely figure out how. Me, maybe not. I have confidence.
And yeah, so there's no instructions on how to do it. It's just the design. But I Googled the company. So on the bottom, it has the original company name. And I thought it was really funny that it's based in Braintree because I found this in Philly, but of course now I live in Massachusetts. And the company still exists. It was inherited by two of the children of the original owner. So it's sort of now divided into two companies, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And it's they changed their name in, I think it was 1988. So that helps narrow down how old this is. Although I'm guessing just from the copied instructions and the color palette and everything, I'm guessing it feels like it's very 70s. So thought it was appropriate with my dress. A little.
Oh yeah, very cool. I love it.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think originally it was hundreds of dollars. So $2 project.
Can't wait to hear about your progress.
Yeah, I'll show it off again once it's done. Although it probably will take me a couple of years to figure out how and then to do the whole project. But I'm excited.
I have no doubt that you'll do it though. And our next segment. So I found a couple of items what I did this week, I didn't have anything in mind. So what I did this week is and Lola, these are always a surprise for you. So
yep,
I went to the really weird stuff on totally bizarre, I think, category on eBay. And I searched from high to low. And oddly enough, the highest items in that category were vintage straitjackets.
Oh, weird.
I did not know that there was a market for them. So this one sold for best offer. It was $400. And so, and it has it's not, I mean, it's vintage, but it's not like vintage, like antique vintage, because it's got the tag on it and all there. It's not obviously. And then, and then this one also sold for $399. So, and this, it's just crazy though that
I feel like if I found one of those and I sold it, now that I know how much they're worth, I would maybe sell it and donate that money to like a mental health charity.
Yeah, I agree.
It just bothers me to even see them listed. But
I know the history of it is a little disturbing when you think about it because they're not used anymore, obviously.
No.
It's but again, I know I have seen I know I saw on America's Got Talent, there was a magician that was that got himself out of it in within a minute or something, so I guess there are other uses. There's museums, there's probably other. But the history of them is a little disturbing. I agree. And I like the idea there. But I was just kind of blindsided that there's such a market for them and they sell for so much. It's just crazy.
I mean, I'm not surprised they sell. I think the actual price on them, though, definitely surprises me.
Yeah. It's so anyway, that was my little tidbit there. And then going into our main segment. So our first, I guess our first, we'll just dive right into it.
Okay, so so we each have 10 tips, and we'll go back and forth, which is usually what we do when we do a top 10 tip episode. And my first tip is that when you were
you know what? I'm sorry, I forgot about next week's show and our whole.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. I knew I was forgetting something. I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Yeah, duh.
That's okay. Whoops.
Go back.
There we go.
Go back. So for the last week, I am going to wish everybody a happy Pride Month. And okay, so next week we are not doing a show because it is Lola's going to be on vacation, and it's also, I think a lot of you are probably going to be doing stuff for the 4th of July, and so we're taking a week off. We may or may not do a couple. We were talking about doing maybe a short video, so look out for that if we do.
Yeah, if we do a short video, it won't be live, so you can
so it'll just be
on our channel at your own leisure.
Exactly. But so next week, so there won't be a show next week, but the following week, Jason, who I don't think he's in the chat right now, but he is going to be, if you see in the lower left-hand corner, he's going to be our commentary, our special guest. He's going to have some colorful commentary because he is a tiki expert. And we're going to be talking about what is the coconut girl aesthetic. If you have not heard of this, you should, because it is going to be taking storm with this summer with the younger generation, with Gen Z. And it is I won't delve too much into it because I don't want to give too much away, but it does overlap tiki. So, so we thought it would be fun to have Jason on, kind of talking about maybe, the overlap and how, he might have some different perspectives on how you can market this aesthetic, which is geared for the younger generation, from a tiki standpoint. So we're going to be thinking about,
It'll be really interesting because there's so many items that are now appealing to two totally different groups of people. And so I think the combination of our focus on, style and trends and Jason's really deep tiki knowledge will be super fun. And I'm really excited to talk about all of that. So
yes, for sure. So that's next. The next show will be Friday the 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. I'm sorry, Pacific. Okay.
So usual time.
Yes. And now we will go into our 10 best thrifting tips. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm glad.
Something I felt like I'm like, what am I? And then I
I was wondering if you were just going to wait till the end, but
no, I just
okay. So my first tip is that when you are thrifting, to remember to use all of your senses. So first of all, like taste, obviously, maybe not so much, but I do think it's good to pack a snack. But otherwise, when you're going through and scanning the racks, I think the first instinct is to use your eyes, which can be very helpful, of course, but it can get overwhelming really, really fast, especially if you're a new thrifter. I think it's something that you kind of build up your stamina over time. So I remember when I first started thrifting, I would kind of go from, one rack to another. And then after a couple, I would get through one section and I would just be done. I couldn't keep looking. And now I can just do the whole store and spend hours and still feel like I'm, in the zone and enjoying the process. So, my first thought is that it's helpful to kind of figure out where you're going to focus your attention. So I like to really hone in on the tags on the clothing. So if I'm flipping through a rack, it can get really easy to be distracted by a bright color, a bright print. And sometimes that can be a great item, but then sometimes you're looking at those and you're missing a darker colored item that's a designer item because it's not as jumping off the rack. It kind of blends in a little bit more. So it's good to focus right on your like the tag of jeans, if you're going to the jeans rack, or the shirt tag on shirts, that kind of thing. And then judging that, if you see a good brand, then pull it off. While you're doing that, it's also really good to use your hands and to practice and learn what really high quality items feel like. Because if you get into the practice of knowing what cashmere is just off touch, if you know what a really high quality fabric feels like, it's usually a little bit heavier. And that goes true also for if you're looking through like items that are made of metal, you can kind of tell the difference between something that feels a little bit more robust, something that's made cheaper, and that can help you decide what to take a closer look at. And then the comment about smell, also super important. You always want to be aware if you can smell a smoke smell, if you can smell like a cat urine smell. There's definitely a few that is a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, because there are some smells that you can that you can get out with a good wash with some, but not everything. Cat pee, I'm sorry. There's
no. And obviously that's kind of, even for me, that's rare, like thrifting all the time. It's only happened on a couple occasions where like a smell is so bad that I will pass something up. But like, if it's that bad in the store, I worry that even if I think I've gotten it out, if I send it to a customer, then they're going to get it. They're going to have a more sensitive nose than I do and be really unhappy. So, that's where I tend to draw the line. So, it's just really good to don't just think about what you're seeing on the racks, but using all of your senses and making sure that you're evaluating items from multiple perspectives.
Yeah. It's something that's been sitting in a non hard goods item, like a, something fabric or something that's been sitting in a smoker's house for the last 50 years. Most likely, no matter what you do, you're not going to. So yeah, you do have
a mild musty smell. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And it depends on the item, how easy it is to clean, whether or not I'll get it.
Yeah. So that's a good, and also over time, you kind of get a sense of touch, especially like with clothing and all. I can go through a rack, I can instantly know the difference between the feel of cashmere and silk versus polyester and acrylic, so you get that sense after a while. And you also learn some of the things like bright colors that are chevron pattern or zigzag pattern are often Missoni, which is a high-end designer. Now, is everything Missoni? No, but if I'm going through a rack, I'm going to jump to those chevron items and look to see if there's a Missoni tag on it. So after a while, you kind of like Lily Pulitzer prints, them by sight often. They have a distinctive look. So so that's a great tip.
Right. And so that's why I wanted to say, like, it's, don't overlook the brightly colored items, but recognize when you are skipping over other things because your eye is drawn to something, and that you may be
the black items that are
they're easier,
great black items that
exactly.
Good tip, Lola.
And your first tip?
So mine is don't go overboard with sales and low prices. So it's so easy. You know, there's Dollar Days. There's, I know that there's a Circle Thrift in Philly. That's one of the stores that has a tag of the week that's 25 cents. You can get really excited when you find a 25-cent item or a $1 item and think, oh, I'm going to pick up every 25-cent item in the store. There's color tag sales, and it's easy to overload your cart at the bins because it's only 99 cents a pound, or even like sometimes their stores, I know like Philly Aids Thrift in Philly has a free bin outside the store. Now I have found some free items in that bin, you know, like some books, some things for myself, for my kids that are great. And sometimes you find something to resell, but sometimes it's just junk that you don't need, but it's easy to say, oh, well, it's free. So it also includes family and friends who are well-meaning, and try to unload items on you instead of maybe donating. And, you know, be picky as you would with full price items. If you go overboard, it's easy to become overwhelmed, to have a huge profit pile. And then the items that are really worthless, you're going to get kind of buried in there, and they're not going to, you know, you're going to be sitting on a lot of money. So it's also easy to accumulate items that just aren't worth your time to sell. So by all means, enjoy the bins, enjoy the sales, but still be picky and think about what you're buying or even taking for free. It's okay to tell people thank you, but I'm sorry, I am overwhelmed with inventory right now. I really appreciate the thought, but I just can't take anything. Or you can see what they have, and you know, and you can pick through and see if there's anything that is a good opportunity. That's okay too, but just be picky and don't feel obligated to take free items or to overload on a sale day. You know, and even like with the 25-cent, the $1 items, it adds up. You know, you can on Dollar Days or at the bins, you can end up spending a good chunk of change. You know, just on because every dollar adds up. You know?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, and I think as thrifters, like one of our biggest joys is to find value in things that everyone else has overlooked. And so sometimes it's like, at least for me, I can feel really stubborn where I see something and I'm like, oh, I really want this to be a good item, and it's, you know, it's free or it's 25 cents. And sometimes it's just, that's the item you pass on. There really isn't anything left to salvage. And it is worth being picky, and is worth, you know, recognizing when that's not your job to find the one buyer who finds value in an item that is really just kind of worth leaving behind.
Yeah. Jason said he was out picking up a lot of cassettes. So that will play into one of my tips later, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next tip is that it is fun to have a thrifting white whale or holy grail. And I definitely have several. I think that I add to that list more than I actually find it, but it's always nice to know that like that's one of my, you know, like when I find one of those items, it will be a day that I remember forever, because the whole process of thrifting then becomes more of a treasure hunt. And I know some people tend to have like a little bit of a pessimistic attitude, I think, where especially people who've been thrifting a while, it's like, oh, it's not as good as it used to be. And that's definitely true. I remember, you know, when I started thrifting in high school, I would find older vintage all the time, and that's just harder and harder now, especially with the rise of fast fashion. That, you know, a lot of thrift stores have a lot of more contemporary clothes, but that doesn't mean that digging is not going to uncover something amazing. And it's, you know, it may take perseverance, it may not happen.
For sure. I think Lola froze, but I know what she was saying. Are you there, Lola?
I'm still, I can see you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, maybe I froze and you just looked like you were froze from my end. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no. Well, let's see the chat.
Yeah, I don't know. You were like turned black and we're rotating, but.
Weird. Can you hear me now and see me?
Yeah, you're fine now.
Everything's fine now? Okay, that's so weird. Nothing happened on my end at all.
Okay, maybe it was on my end. You turned black and were like gone for a second.
Okay, good. Well, okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, so I don't think it's wrong to like dream big, you know. I think I have reasonable expectations when I go into the thrift store, but it definitely adds an element of like, what might I find? Is today the day? Is this the trip? And it helps me, I think, focus a little bit more too, that like I like to thrift just sort of open-ended, knowing that I'll pick up anything that's good that I come across, but having something that's sort of in mind that I'm hoping to find also helps me just look a little closer at every item overall and makes me kind of more engaged in the process. And sometimes, I'm hoping to find like high-end fabric, like Liberty of London fabric is one thing I'd love to find in the thrift store. I've only found a tie once, long time ago. It was the only, like, besides Liberty for Target, and the only Liberty item I found. So that would be, like a holy grail item. But even if I'm just thinking about, like, I really would love to find some interesting planters for my
it doesn't have to be like some ridiculous high-end, unobtainable or harder to find item. It could be something that you're just looking for yourself or for your like I'm always looking for boys size extra large or men's small Air Jordan items, because I know my one son loves that stuff. So
so then when you're looking for it, it kind of helps you look a little closer at every other item around that section. And I just think it overall makes me a better thrifter to have a couple items in mind every time I go into the store.
Yep, I agree. And and I have, I have some. What is the biggest holy grail you've found so far?
I think it'd have to be the Poochie catsuit that I talk about and show in our Poochie episode. So if that's you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. But I found it in New York City, and it was definitely not an item I ever actually expected to find. Maybe a Poochie item, like a more contemporary one, but this was like a condition vintage Poochie catsuit. And I have not listed it because it will have to be very hard to part with it, but I probably should.
Oh yeah, I know. That's the thing. But it's great too. And I found an authentic Fendi bag and an authentic bag at the bins. So they are, they're there. And that makes me dig more because I know I found them in the past, so I can find it again.
Did you sell those or keep them?
Yeah, I sold the Celine bag. Actually, I did. It was you were with me. It was in the case, and it wasn't like in with the bins. It was but it was authentic. I did pay $50, but I sold it for over $200. So that's an example of sometimes you can pay up for things.
Which is another tip I know you wanted to mention.
Yeah, it's kind of like a side tip, but I also did find the Fendi bag. It was authentic. I sold it for a few $100s. The buyer was happy. And I found that in the bins with like the Kohl's brand bags and stuff, it was just there. And it was funny because the bin was already picked over. And I think a lot of people just didn't want to touch it because they didn't know what it was, or they didn't think it was real.
Or they didn't want to go through the trouble of authenticating it.
So it's there, I know some of my other ones are like Mackenzie Childs. I've found and sold Gucci. I've found and sold Alfred Shaheen dresses, Gunny Sacks. I sold a vintage Gunny Sacks dress before the cottage core craze really hit. So I know now I wish I'd still had it and I could have sold it for much more. But the point is the things are out there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And so our next tip is to re-examine the items in your cart before checkout. And you can do this virtually too. So if you don't put items in your cart and then go back to grab them later, they might not be there. So my whole strategy when I'm in person thrifting is to just, if I see something, I don't necessarily look it over really, I look it over quickly, but I don't like hold it up to the light and stand there because, especially if it's a sale day or something, it's going to be gone. So I put everything in my cart. And then I will pull over to a quiet area of the store and go back and look for flaws, check comps that I need to, or, can reconsider if I really need an item or it's truly worth reselling. And I can also mentally, with the calculator on my phone, add up and make sure that I'm not going out of my budget. So you can do the same thing with online shopping. So, for example, with sites like Thrift to You, I'll often add multiple items to my cart and then go through after to sort through to see if I really want them, if they have flaws, look up comps, etc. I want to pull that up on the screen.
I got it.
Thanks. So here's Thrift to You. Everything's $1. They do charge shipping though. So I just threw some items in my cart just to show you, what you can do. Now I might have 50 items in my cart and decide I don't want to spend all that plus shipping. So then I can go through and re-look at things and think, look up comps and see if I really want them. So you can do that. You can easily remove an item on, so you can do that virtually too. And then also I have that same example with Shop Goodwill here. So, with eBay to other sites, you can source from Poshmark and other sites too. you can do similar. You can watch items and then re-examine your watch list to see if there are items that you want to buy or bid on. So here, here's my account, and so I have, I have where is it? My shop Goodwill, and I'll go into my watch list, and then I'll see, I can see what's ending soon, what, I can place a quick bid on an item, and I can go through and look and see if I really want these items, so I can, watch a bunch of them and then go through later and pick and choose. So that's a great way to kind of, go through your items with a fine tooth comb. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of the same principle of like, if there's something that you want to buy, but you're kind of on the fence about it, to just sort of sleep on it. Like it's nice to sort of throw everything in that you think might be good and then really take your time to examine it all.
For sure.
And that leads into my next tip, which is that sometimes it is really a great learning exercise to limit yourself to a strict budget. So I first started doing this when I was in college, and I've always loved going to the thrift store, of course. And I would sometimes go to the thrift store with just like $20, and that was my budget because I was a broke college student. So, I knew I could easily go overboard even at the thrift store, and I would, literally just take a $20 bill and I left everything else at home, and that was all I could spend. And I realized that every time I did that, I was really happy with every single item I purchased. It was thrifting for myself. So it was items that I used them all, I wore them all, I had them for years. I was just really, really happy with everything I came home with. And $20 might be a little bit harder now because, prices have gone up since I was in college.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Years ago. And, but like we're talking about, the bins or dollar day or 25-cent items. So this could also be go into a store with $20 and only look at the color of the week or something like that. But the idea is that if you have a limited budget, you really have to make decisions. And so if you're looking at your cart at the end of your shopping trip, you may notice more flaws that you would overlook and kind of slow down and think about, okay, when I'm not shopping on such a strict budget, what am I cutting corners on? What am I missing? What am I overlooking? You might look more at comps and leave some duds behind and learn some more comps that will help you in the future that way. You may also just kind of recognize what items you are gravitating towards more.
Yep.
Is that me? I thought I heard an echo on.
I don't hear an echo. I heard a little.
Okay, maybe it was just.
I don't hear an echo.
So if you only have $20 and you have some clothes and some hard goods, and you realize you're leaving the hard goods behind, maybe that teaches you something about, oh, I really, really hate packing these, or I just don't like having to worry about calculating shipping for items that I'm not familiar with. And so that can kind of just guide you in the future also and let you know, this is how I like to run my business. This is what works best for me. Or, this is maybe opposite. Like this is an item that I'm resisting because I don't know anything about it. And I kind of have a feeling it's good. So maybe I need to like fill that gap in my knowledge. So yeah. I find that it's really, really illuminating in ways I don't expect. And it's really fun.
I agree. And I have just to add, I've on occasion when I'm on a really tight budget, I've left my debit and credit card at home. Yep. I've taken out some cash from the ATM and I've only brought that certain amount of cash with me. So that's in my budget. And that way I can make sure I don't go over my budget.
Yeah. And even if you're not on a budget, if you want to just do that as a challenge to yourself, I think it's really fun. So
yeah, it is. And sometimes it's okay to spend most, like I was saying with the Celine bag that I found at the bins that I paid $50 for, but I sold it for over $200. Sometimes it is okay to spend most of or your whole budget on one or just a couple more expensive items if the potential profit margin is high.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no rule on, like even if you're going in with a strict budget, if that ends up being one or two items too, like that could be your trip, and that could end up being more profitable than 20 items that are, lower dollar each. So.
Yeah. And so look to the reseller community for thrifting and sourcing tips and opportunities. So YouTubers and the community, so I have something to show on screen here. Okay. So YouTubers in the community like us will often do unboxings or talk about sourcing opportunities that you might not have heard of. So here's an example of her YouTube name is Nuptial, and I follow her. And she talked about, she did an unboxing video of Boutique by the Box. She's also a Poshmark seller, and I had never heard of Boutique by the Box, but because I follow her on Instagram and she's part of the community, I looked up Boutique by the Box, and it is something that, you know, it's a liquidation site, and they have they do have different boxes that you can buy. So they have limited edition bestseller boxes. They have a basic swimwear, an ultimate swimwear, bestseller, you know, and so, you know, there's an idea of what they have there. A lot of them are sold out or out of stock, but here's like the basic swimwear. It's $59. And a lot of it is, you know, new with tag clothing. And it's, you know, I guess it's, you know, probably closeouts from stores and whatnot. But I never knew that existed. And I only found out about it because I you know, follow her on Instagram. So I might try a box sometime. And her unboxing was pretty good, you know, so. And then here's a YouTuber. I don't know this, you know, I don't know this YouTuber, but I've seen some of her videos.
As you can hear, I have got a bulk.com
it's a bulk box,
case.
and I never had heard of bulk.
Can you pause it?
Me anywhere in the United States.
Can you pause the video?
For good
Yeah,
shipping,
hold
that's
on.
an option.
Sorry.
So
yeah, so there's a bulk box that I had I hadn't heard of bulk before, but because I follow her on YouTube, I, you know, saw that video and I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. It looks like it's another kind of store closeout thing, but you know, you can get ideas of different sourcing opportunities. And then so pay attention to Facebook groups like the Thrifting board again. So sometimes people are either unloading inventory in your area and you might have a sourcing opportunity there. Or if you're new to an area, you can put up a message on, you know, like a Facebook group like the Thrifting board, and you know, ask about where to thrift in that area. You often will get great recommendations and tips about that area. And you might even, you know, somebody might even come in and say, hey, I'll thrift with you. Here's an example of one that was put up in the Thrifting board a while ago, that they were traveling to Las Vegas and they wanted to know if there were any recommendation on thrift stores. And of course, you know, Jason, Jason chimed in and said, you know, and gave the locations and the information about savers, and a lot of other people, you know, also made some helpful comments. So, you know, so that's another way to, and then also local marketplace and local groups may not be as thrifting savvy, but they may tell you about local garage sales, church sales, yard sales, and local marketplace sellers. Like Jason, I assume, probably picked up that cassette lot on Marketplace, you know, so there you go. That's, you know, that's another opportunity. So, and then, of course, also make friends in the thrifting and reseller community, because there's enough to go around for everyone, and many are friendly and helpful. And that ties into one of my next tips. So, yeah,
I think it's worth noting that sometimes when you see like unboxings on social media, that they are sort of like product placement. They may have been sponsored by the company. But I feel that in general, the thrifting community is very skeptical. And so I trust a review a little bit more in the thrifting community than like most influencer reviews. And I think especially if you see like look through the comments, like people will often give their unvarnished opinion. So, you know, I think that's also a great thing about the community, is that like it's a very supportive community, but it's also pretty brutally honest when it matters. So
definitely. So yeah, so definitely if you're not, you know, involved in the community, get there. So.
Oh, Jason says you'll find out tonight on Thrifty Business.
Oh, okay.
So I guess tune in tonight if you want to know.
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Yes.
And my next tip is take good notes. So this actually came up on a episode recently. We were talking about the value of your time, and how I think it was Brian in the chat that said, you know, money can be replaced, but time cannot, which I think is just a great thing to keep in mind. And that matters when you're listing, that, you know, don't spend too much time on any one item. Focus on the items that are going to be more profitable, because it isn't worth your time to list, a million items and take every picture when those items are only worth a few bucks. But it also can take time to research and to check comps and do things like that, sometimes those processes, once you've done them once, you can really keep yourself from having to do them again. Oh, yeah, there he is in the chat. Time is more valuable than money.
There you go.
So I think taking notes is really, really helpful. I do it a lot on my phone just by taking screenshots and then adding them to a photo album so I don't lose them, which I think I've mentioned before. It's really a method that works well for me. So even if I'm like looking up a dud in the store and I pull up the results on, the solds on eBay or something, if I'm passing on it, I might take a screenshot so that I remember next time I find that item, I passed on it before for a reason. But if I'm researching and finding comps for an item, I think I might find again, it's also worth saying, okay, this was the date and this was the comp. And it can also be interesting to have that record, because I'll know if an item is trending upward or downward over time. If I'm looking up how to authenticate an item, I will, if I find a good website that, walks me through, like recently I was doing this with Ray-Ban sunglasses, and I found a couple really good examples of like websites that walked me through it. So I made sure, and I added them to a Pinterest board so that if I find another pair of Ray-Bans, I know I can look on Pinterest and pull it up again. So it's really helpful. If you're not a super techie person like I am, I think it's most important that you have something you can pull out while you're in the store. So it might be good to just start a little notebook and make sure that's...
Yeah, you can do it old school. You can get like, a blank journal and just use that if you want to. That works, yeah.
So, find the method that works for you. But I think the most important thing is, if you're learning, to make sure that you have a place to store all that knowledge, and it doesn't have to be in your brain, in your memory all the time. Sometimes that can be external, and you dump it all somewhere where you can refer back to it.
Yep. Great tip. And my next one is to thrift with a friend and make friends while thrifting. So having a thrifting buddy has a ton of perks, which Lola can attest to, because we thrift together all the time. So here is a picture of Lola and I on one of our Goodwill bins adventures.
My green hair.
I love the green hair. That was on your birthday, I think, 2 years ago. So definitely there's enough to go around the thrift store. So don't worry about competition. Make friends with your fellow resellers. Even posting, like I mentioned above, even posting on a Facebook group like Thrifting Board will sometimes find you thrifting buddies in your area or in an area that you're going to visit. So sometimes, like with Lola, like it's an extra set of eyes, and you can help each other to find flaws or items. So often we give each other items too. Like, sometimes I'm so overwhelmed with items, or I'll find some really great yarn that, I'll be like, oh, Lola needs this, and I'll give it to you, So you can help each other too with keeping each other in check. Like I've had things in my cart and Lola's like, do you really need that? That's not, or she'll find a flaw that I didn't find, so you can help each other. You also, if you're thrifting with a friend that has a different area of expertise than you can learn from them. So for example, and I talked about this before, when I thrift with Jason, I have ventured into the CD section where I never would have before in my past years. And I've learned a ton about CDs, and now I'm sourcing and thrifting them and selling them, which I never would have done. So likewise, I've shared my expertise on women's fashion and other items with Jason and taught him some things too while thrifting with him. And here's a picture of him at Philly AIDS Thrift in Philly. I was with him then, and he is going through those CDs like no tomorrow. And I have learned a ton. Now, I will never be at the level where I can just flip. Like it's like a phenomenon to watch him, but I've learned so much, and I'm still learning, but it's great to have a friend that you can learn from. And then sometimes also other thrifters and resellers at the thrift stores can become friends and help you out. So I've made friends with other regulars at the thrift store. This picture, I posted this in Thrifty Business and the Thrifting Board a few years back. This was when I was when I lived in Philly. And this is this guy, Ron, who I haven't been thrifting there for a while. So I hope he's still around, but he let me take his picture and post it. So he, at my local Goodwill, like I always saw this guy every trip. he was there. And I finally started talking to him. His name was Ron, and he was like an expert in glass and in some of the and paintings and whatnot. So, and I would teach him about handbags and fashion. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, he'd come over and say, should I buy this? And I'd be like, yeah, or no, and he would save things for me. He'd be like, I hid an item like behind the toy rack over there for you that I thought you might be interested in, So he would help me out too. And he would teach me. So it definitely makes thrifting more pleasant when you make friends with other people there. And also, you can also make friends with the thrift store employees. That's of course another tip in itself, but you can often get extra perks and a friendly in person to chat to while you're thrifting. And, often they will, once you develop a friendship with them, you can ask them questions. They'll often tip you off when there's good items that just came in or upcoming sales. And sometimes they'll even give you a discount at the register. So,
and of course, it's also just nice to be nice to people who are working hard in our thrift stores. So.
Yes, exactly. So,
okay. So my last tip is that the number one best thrifting tool is your curiosity. I think thrifting is a hobby and business that I enjoy because it sort of incorporates knowledge from like every different part of your life. So you never know when you're going to stumble upon like a news story, or you're talking to someone at a party and they start telling you about a hobby that you didn't even know existed. And then all of a sudden you realize that there's this whole world of people who are super into something that you might come across at the thrift store, but before you knew about it, would have totally overlooked. So there's knowledge to be found everywhere that's going to relate to the things that you come across while thrifting. And I think that just keeping an open mind and just like listening to everyone and being curious everywhere you go will open up completely new worlds for you. And I'm trying to think of some examples, but like for me, I always talk about my own like knitting and sewing hobbies and how because of those I've become really well versed in selling yarn and fabric and sewing patterns and things like that. And I definitely am trying to learn more about hobbies I don't do because I think that's a great way that there are people who are passionate and looking for really specific things. But then also like my sewing hobby helps me better understand clothing that helps me when I'm thrifting. So it's almost like there's nothing in the world that you can learn about that won't eventually help you while you're thrifting. And that as long as you are just keeping that curiosity alive and remembering that you never know when you're going to learn something helpful, you will become a better thrifter over time.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes your creativity or your thrifting intuition can turn out to find some really great items, So often if you kind of trust your instincts or you're curious about something because it looks like something that might be good, often you'll look it up and it will be good. So, that's a great way to find things.
Yeah, an unusual label or just an item that's really, really weird and you don't know what it is, but you might bring it home and then post it on the thrifting board and ask, like, there's just, maybe it's a dud, but then you learn like a totally new type of item where there are good versions of that thing.
Yeah, your curiosity can teach you both ways. It can give you great scores or it can teach you what not to look.
Definitely.
And I want to say hi to Aaron in the chat. So our next one, our last but not least one is when thrifting online, check often, be competitive, and browse at off hours. So I've been thrifting online exclusively for over the past year, which is painful. I am itching to go to a thrift store. Because it's not, now I would go definitely, but my kids are home. They've been home because of the pandemic and remote learning, and now they're home for the summer. So it's really hard for me. So I've been doing a lot of online sourcing, and I've learned a lot. And, often hot items on sites like Thrift to You that I talk about, eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, will go fast if you don't hesitate to buy. Don't hesitate to buy them. But the same goes for being competitive with blue boxes and other reseller boxes that sell out quickly, and that holds true with online retail arbitrage, limited edition type type items. You know, sometimes Target will release a collab and you can go online and buy it and it's sold out quickly. So you got to be with it, you know, and online auctions such as Shop Goodwill, you need to really bid up at last minute if you truly want a hot item. So know when they restock, like Shop Goodwill, Blue Box. Yeah, they restock at 6 p.m. Eastern every Friday. So you know you've got to be there at like 5:55. You've got to start refreshing.
And we'll set an alarm and we'll message each other and remind each other like when it's coming up. So that's another good reason to have a thrifting friend, because you can help each other time things right. That's a good example too.
Boxes. Yeah. So you've got to be with it and know and keep checking back often. I know Thrift to You that I constantly talk about, they restock at various times. A lot of times though, it's late at night. So I'll keep refreshing and I'll watch as they're putting items out. Now one of my sales that I'll show you was on Thrift to You, and I snagged it at the last minute.
Yeah, you have gotten some really great items, and it's definitely because you get them right away.
Exactly. So. And I was looking late at night as they were listing it, and I grabbed it so fast because I knew it was $1 and I knew it was going to sell for a lot more. And I'll show you that in the market report. But, you know, you've got to be with it and snag some of those things right away. And then browse auctions and online items late at night. It also gives you another advantage of finding great items when there's less traffic and competition. So sometimes even on Shop Goodwill, they will end auctions at a certain hour, but there's still buy it now items. There's still items that, you know, newly, you know, have come up and whatnot, and you can browse like what's coming up. So it's a good time to, you know, to snag, especially on eBay and all. If it's an auction, you can snag it at an off hour, and then know what to look for in other reseller platforms like eBay. So they can be a great place to source and flip inventory that other sellers are selling cheaply, like lots, misspellings, wrongly categorized item, underpriced items. And be willing to sometimes take a gamble when descriptions and photos are poor. Like, again, with Thrift to You, they put one photo up usually. They have no description, just a simple title, and you've got to zoom up on that picture. And sometimes you don't know really the condition, and you're kind of taking a gamble, but it's worth it if you think it might be something good. And be a detective and kind of zoom in on photos of brands and tags and styles and whatnot. So,
yeah. And I think one of my favorite things about Shop Goodwill, so that was the blue boxes were late last week. Good to know. One of my favorite things about Shop Goodwill is it still reminds me of like the old school eBay. So like a lot of the auctions will end on Sunday night, and it's like timed intentionally so that people are around. But then every now and then there's an item that for some reason is ending at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. And like, if you're the one who's awake at 2 a.m., you can snag it and you can get it for a better price. So there's always those off times that like it's worth browsing.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, those are our 10 tips. And if anyone in the chat or watching this later has anything to add to what we said, or if you have a different opinion and you see things a different way, we're always curious to hear what people have to say. So let us know in the chat right now, or comment if you're watching later on. We'd love to hear your opinions on our thrifting tips.
Yes, and we have some thrifting breaking news for you. So the first item is that eBay has changed their return policy for trading cards. So Lola, you brought this to my attention.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're emulating the more closer to like Poshmark or Mercari, where you now have like a 3-day window to say if you are going to file an INAD not to return for like the 30-day window. So I guess cards specifically, I don't know a ton about them, but that the prices can be very volatile. So people will sometimes like buy it sort of speculatively and then try and flip it. And if it doesn't flip, then try to return it. So it can be really hard to sell and like trust that the card has been sold and someone's not trying to sort of, I don't know when I use the word scam, but kind of run this game.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've talked about in previous episodes, when eBay has been like rolling out a couple new policies, like back when they first did offers to watchers, you can really tell that the competition is pushing eBay to introduce a new new tools, new policies, like where Poshmark and Mercari are leading the trend, like eBay eventually is following. So I am hoping that this policy will maybe be rolled out to more items and more categories. I mean, I know people who sell like high-end dresses definitely worry about people who buy the dress, wear it and return it, things like that. So, definitely, yeah. I mean, but that also, I could see that not being as helpful because Nadine, that happened to you once where someone returned a totally trashed item, and
it was those black leggings, the black milk leggings, those epic leggings that were, mine were gorgeous. They were like crispy and brand new, and I got back the same pair, but they were like crotch stained and faded, and and I knew it wasn't the same pair. But
yeah,
it happened.
So, but, I mean, if it does help cut down, then that's great too. Yeah.
Yeah. So our next. But, yeah.
So that sounds like it happens really often within the.
Okay.
That makes sense. It's pretty. I mean, it's easy to print another, piece of paper.
Yeah. They're and I think those card people can be fierce. I know Target stopped selling the cards
we talked about that.
to protect their employees. So. So our next topic is summer shop trends that Gen Z versus millennials post lockdown looks. I did put this in the description. So
this is from Pinterest. It's their like seasonal trend watch based on their own data, and it's really insightful. Kind of can help us think about what's trending for the next season, next few months. Some of it's not as relevant to things that would be found in thrift stores, but can also extrapolate some of these trends to other kind of categories.
And it might help give you some ideas for bowling,
like what colors are trending, what sort of the vibe that's trending, and that can help guide what you're looking for as well.
Yep. Like apparently peach color bathroom is a trend, so I would have never known that. So look for so definitely check out this article in the description that I did put the link in there already. And then also later today at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 4:30 I guess Eastern time. There's the June seller check-in from eBay. So I did RSVP and I am going to be doing this. I don't know. And I'll share, if it's helpful, maybe there'll be some takeaways from it. So that's today. So if you're not registered for this, I think you still can register. I'm not sure, but check your messages because the registration link, that's where I got mine. So that's coming up today from eBay.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah.
Wow, Hot Wheels too.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is awful.
Yeah. Oh, Debbie says that she's also going to be sending. Yeah, so Debbie, that would be interesting to get some of your takeaway on that too. So, and thanks for joining us in the chat today. Debbie's another good friend. And our market report, I have a few. So this is the item that I was talking about that I snagged from Thrift to You late at night as they were restocking it.
Incredible.
For $1, I pounced on this right away, and I paid the full shipping because I just, bought it outright because I wasn't going to wait.
I don't blame you. I would have done the same thing. So how much?
Exactly. So, I think shipping for one item is like $5.99. So I think I paid, so altogether I paid, like $7 for this t-shirt with shipping. And it was a genuine 1989 tour shirt. I did note in the description and in that there was there's holes in it, which you can zoom up. There's pinholes in it, and there's the tag.
But that's distressing. That's positive to some people. So
exactly. You can see. Yeah, I zoomed up. You can see that it's faded and pilled. You can see the wash wear. There's the the 1989.
Yeah,
so
fading is easy.
Yeah, and I did say that there's significant wash wear and fading, crackling wear and print, some pin-sized holes that can be seen on the back of the lettering would suggest hand wash only to preserve condition from further wear. So yeah, so I sold this I took a best offer. I had it up for 125 and I took a best offer. I had some watchers on it. I had a couple lowball offers, and then I got a $75 offer plus shipping, and I accepted that because I thought that was a decent solid offer. So, and that is again an item that I snagged late at night as they were restocking. So that illustrates one of our tips.
Yeah.
And then I sold this shirt. I only sold it for $12. This is my most recent eBay sale, but I took the best offer of $12. Ironically, I sold it to someone in the same small town that I used to work in. It's a suburb of Philadelphia. And I was shocked that it was, of all the places in the world, it was somebody in this small town that I used to
and it's so funny that happened to you. I forgot to send you my sold links, but I just sold an item on Poshmark to a town very close to where you are in Jersey. And then like my previous sale before that went to Philadelphia. So I don't know what it is about like the mid-Atlantic area seems to be shopping from our stores.
It is a small world, but again, this was another item that I sourced on Thrift to You for $1, and this was with another order. So I really didn't pay much on shipping. It was with a, larger order with other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I paid $1 for the shirt, and I was just like, you know what, I'll take the 12, that day. So I was happy with that. It was fine. It wasn't a big sale.
Oh yeah, that's a decent sale.
Yeah, but it was, I made a profit on it. And then this one was an item that I got in the bins a while back, and it was a Patagonia waffle knit top that was an extra. Oops, just my mouse jumped. It was an extra small, and I did disclose it had some minor wash wear, and I got a 5-star rating on it. I took a $15 offer. I was happy for just a plain tank top that was an extra. Yeah. So, so not every sale has to be a huge sale, but some of them are.
For something from the bins. That's a good sale, yeah.
Exactly. And and we have a question for you this week. We want to know what your best thrifting tip is, if you have one to share with us.
Or if any of our tips help you also, please let us know if we've helped you guide your thrifting to any great items. It's always really fun to hear people report back on what's helped them and how. So, and as always, you can find us all over the internet. Nay is Thrifty Nay almost everywhere except for eBay. Her store is Colbray * Dazzle, and I am Run Lola Run on Poshmark and Depop, and Lola Thrifts on Instagram, and Low-Fi on eBay. And you can always email us at naylothrifts@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you with any feedback and thoughts or ideas for an upcoming show. We've definitely gotten some great ideas from viewers, and it's always really fun to be able to do a show that we know is going to help you because it's something that's been requested. So
absolutely. And again, we will be back next week with next week. Sorry,
the following week.
Yes. So we'll be talking about the coconut girl. Next week actually is going to be 4th of July. So happy 4th, everybody. And then the following week, we'll be back with what is the coconut girl aesthetic on Friday the 9th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, with colorful commentary from our special tiki expert guest, Jason. So that's going to be fun.
That'll be so much fun.
Yeah. So
we'll see you all then. Happy 4th, since that'll happen before we see you guys again. And thank you so much for watching.
Yes, thank you. Have a great 2 weeks, everybody. And we'll see you on the 9th.
Bye.